Taoiseach, housing is often discussed in this chamber, but too often we don't discuss the reality, the real-life impact that this crisis is having on people's lives. The Irish Examiner has been speaking with some of these people this week. Kellyanne Healy is 37 and lives at home with her parents in Blackpool and Cork. She's worked since she was a teenager and always thought if she worked hard enough, she would one day own a home of her own. But that dream is rapidly fading. She said, when you're single, people think you have a fancy life, but there's not much you can do from your childhood bedroom. Kellyanne's living situation is also taking a toll on her parents, who see their daughter struggling. She said, "My dad is the biggest worrier in the world, and I know it's difficult for him seeing me so stressed." Jennifer Manifold is 45 and still living in a house share with 2 housemates in Cork. Despite working full-time, she has no hope of buying and can't even afford to rent on her own. Jennifer said her living situation is depressing. She tries not to think about what would happen if she were evicted. She said, "This is creating such anxiety. This is something that many people in positions of power would not be able to understand." Christina Galvin is 51 and may have to emigrate because of the housing disaster. Christina said she has a good salary, but most of it goes on rent for her 1-bed apartment in Galway. She feels huge stress and tragically shame because of her housing situation. She said, "I am beyond outrage. I am despairing." Taoiseach, Kellyanne, Jennifer and Christina are just 3 of the tens of thousands of people who are suffering because of the housing disaster. Tens of thousands of people are enduring the same trauma with every waking moment consumed with dread and fear. Because without housing security, your whole life feels unmoored. It feels like there's no place for you in society, that your life is passing you by, that you're missing opportunities to start a relationship, a family, a new career. And then, of course, there is the helplessness and frustration because you can't do anything about it. Worst of all, Taoiseach, some people feel shame, as if they are the failure. The reality is not being able to pay rack rents or record house prices is not a personal failure. It's a failed government housing plan and a shameful refusal to admit it. Taoiseach, yesterday we learned that house prices have gone up again by a further 6%. As house prices continue to soar, the government continues to miss its affordable housing targets. Last year, you managed to deliver just 499 affordable purchase homes and just 966 cost rental homes. That's fewer than 1,500 affordable homes when the target was 5,500. Taoiseach, can you please explain why the government isn't meeting your affordable housing targets? Explain it to people like Kellyanne, Jennifer and Christina and everybody else out there in similar situations.
Taoiseach.
Well, first of all, I just want to make a point, Deputy, and I've repeatedly said in this House that housing is the single most urgent and important social issue facing our people at this moment in time. And access to housing is fundamental to our security, social cohesion and opportunity for people and progress as a nation. And there's not a family in the country untouched by the crisis. And I respectfully suggest you don't have a monopoly on this issue in terms of empathy or understanding of the crisis facing many individuals and young people. I would suggest everybody in the House knows of the challenges facing younger people in respect of being in a position to either afford a house or to afford rent to pay a house. And the key is, and you've attacked the government plan, but you haven't produced an alternative plan. And the Housing for All plan, to me, is the most substantive document produced by anybody in the House. The government has produced it. It's been updated and refreshed, and it has many different schemes. I haven't actually seen any substantive alternative document detailing how people think we're going to get to the 40,000 or the 35,000. I just haven't seen it. And I do think there's a responsibility. Fine, it's legitimate to criticise the government plan, But I think there's a real obligation then on you and others to produce coherent plans that would lead to increased supply, because increased supply is the issue. And we have exceeded our targets. Last year, we close to 33,000 houses. The commencement data, which will be out at 2 p.m. today, does confirm that house building is continues to gain momentum. So we have 4,900 housing starts in March now of this year. That's an increase of 51% on March of last year. 51% on March of last year. That's the highest number of homes commenced in any March since records began in 2015. And building began now on about 12,000 homes in the first 3 months of 2024. This is 63% up on the same time in 2023. And that's because of measures we have taken to accelerate and boost housing construction and commencement. Because ultimately, even though we've delivered 100,000 houses since 2020, it's not enough. And the demand is higher than supply, which is leading to fundamental issue, leading to price increases and huge challenges for people. But we've brought in significant affordability schemes, the Help to Buy scheme, the First Home scheme, the capital grants for vacant houses up to 70,000 in the case of dereliction. 4,000 people have now applied where they can live in those houses if they're refurbished and brought back from dereliction, or if vacant houses are refurbished. And substantial applications on the First Home. That's real assistance on the affordability question.
Deputy Karen.
Taoiseach, I don't know, do you think that people believe you when you come in here and just say that we don't put forward any solutions? In the past number of weeks alone, my colleague Cian O'Callaghan has put forward, I think, 255 amendments to the planning bill. The government has just routinely voted them down. One of them was around zoning land for affordable housing, rejected. In terms of immediate solutions that we've suggested, a tax with teeth on vacancy to try and address there's tens of thousands of vacant homes in the middle of a housing crisis, an effective stamp duty on the bulk buying of homes so first-time buyers aren't competing with billion-euro funds. You've refused to do that. It's gone under the radar this week that you're not. Not to mention an introduction of a ban on no-fault evictions. This is something that is standard across the rest of Europe, and you won't even introduce it when more children are becoming homeless by the week. In terms of more kind of medium-term solutions that the Social Democrats have suggested, we've put forward a motion on home ownership with a focus on redirecting subsidies from developers. Related, we have a developer profits transparency bill, the tenancy protection bill, which would protect tenants from large-scale evictions. We published a bill that would make landlords demanding sex in lieu of rent an offence. Another Social Democrats bill would create a land price register. We've put forward suggestions to amend the mandate that at least 50% of new apartment bills would go to individuals and families.
Thank you, Deputy. Please.
Taoiseach, that kind of spin is just something people are sick of, and it solidifies the feeling that this government is just in denial. Can you answer my question? What do you have to say to the fact that you haven't met any of your affordable housing targets since you took office? I recognise supply has increased from the private market, but we need supply of affordable homes to reduce the price of housing overall, because at the core of this crisis is an affordability one. Please answer the question about affordable housing targets.
But again, Deputy, everything you've outlined there, quite a majority of that actually would, in some of what you've suggested, would reduce supply of houses. It's about curtailing the market, restricting. We don't have. We've already curtailed the bulk purchasing through the planning laws and through a stamp duty. In terms of, it is working actually. No, it is working. Despite all of your spin, it is working. And the evidence is there in terms of the fact that the vast majority of house purchases in the country are by citizens, individuals. And we've had the highest number of first-time buyers. Highest in years on an ongoing basis. What does that tell you? It tells you that affordability is improving for quite a number of first-time buyers. We doubled the number of affordable homes this year, and we will continue to increase the direct intervention by the state. And what I'm saying to you, it's not spin, Deputy. Like, Housing for All is a fairly substantial document. It's been updated and so forth, and it's quarterly reports. I've seen no other document from any party, substantive now, saying how are we going to get to 40,000 per annum? How are we going to get to 50,000 per annum? We can all pluck figures out of the air, but we need actually a programmed, clear policy platform as to how you get more houses built.
Thank you.
And how you get more houses and how you get more houses into the private rental market. Your policies would take more houses out of the private rental market, I would suggest.
Deputy Matt Shanahan on behalf of the Regional Group.
think